Right. So first things first, Tino, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
It's very good to hear. So before we get into the album Exotica, I'd like to go back to the beginnings for you because you do have, I would say, a very interesting story. You grew
Okay.
up in East Germany, where for the first, I think, 9 years or so of your life, there
Yeah,
wasn't
10,
much,
almost 10.
yeah, there wasn't much Western culture around. So what was your first introduction to music and to kind of the type of music that you now enjoy?
I would actually say my first contact were my parents. So they were really into music, and especially my father. So went to concerts, even in the DDR and in East Germany, and he collected vinyls. He even drove to Czech or to Hungary to the black market to get some vinyls there you can't get in East Germany, and then he brought it back home. So he spent a lot of effort to listen to his favorite artists. But I mean, I was only 9 or 10 at that time, so I just can't remember that the DDR affected my life in a negative way. So for me, it was like I had a pretty cool time. I had my friends around. I played football. It's actually everything I wanted. So, but the first time I realized the difference of being or growing up in East Germany and then after following the wall in 1990, going to West Germany. I think it was 1992 when I or 1991 when I drove with my parents for the first time to West Germany. Um, and I think we went to Bavaria, to Munich or something like this, and then we went to a record store. It's called Mediamarkt. It's like a electronic store, and that was the first time I realized now I've access to all kinds of music. We walked into the media market, and there were walls full of CDs and vinyls, and I've never seen a collection of CDs and vinyls like this. So and then my father was buying a CD player because we didn't had one before, and he gave us 10 mark. Deutschmark at that time, and said, okay, you can get one, you can buy one single. And that was my first CD I've ever bought. I think it was Inner Circle with Sweat or something like this.
Okay, okay. Did that kind of start you off on a whole collector? Have you become a collector ever since, in a way? Have you always enjoyed going to record stores and kind of sifting through all the records?
This definitely started something. Of course, I got a lot of presents on my birthday or on Christmas of CDs or vinyls. So of course I started collecting stuff because my dad did it and I wanted to do it as well. I wanted to also have a record collection. And as I would say in the mid 90s, with 13, 14, 15, I explored my own style, my own sound, not just following my parents or just listen to the music my parents listened to. So I wanted to listen to my own music, also to music my parents just hated. So just wanted to be independent. I don't know, and so that's why I started listening to electronic music and 80s funk, disco, those kind of music, because my parents weren't really into this disco stuff. My father was more into rock and Peter Gabriel and Pink Floyd and those kind of but I definitely started collecting things. And then another game changer for me was 1996 as Daft Punk released the album Homework. So there was the day I was listening to the album, I don't know, for 2-3 weeks just in a row. And there was a day I knew, okay, I want to be a DJ. I want to produce music. And then I started becoming a DJ and a musician at that time as 16, 17.
What before that moment, before you discovered kind of that Daft Punk album, uh, what attracted you to disco music? What attracted you to this specific type of music? This kind of 80s era style of music. What was it
Disco,
that attracted you?
disco was in Germany. Disco was quite big in at that time. Even Italo disco
Okay.
was played a lot in the radios, and I just remember that I was really obsessed with 12-inch versions with drum fills and with middle eight parts. And already before I made music, I was really obsessed with this kind of extended version of songs. And disco was just almost every disco song had this kind of extended version. And I remember a friend of my father. He was a DJ. He was more like a wedding DJ. But he burned me CDs with his favorite disco and Italo disco classics because I had no access to this kind of music. And it was at the time when, CD burner and stuff like this, where everything started. And he burned me CDs because he had a huge collection as a DJ, obviously. And so he introduced me to this genre, and I always liked this kind of positive energy, this summer vibe. I think even buying In a Circle with Sweat were this kind of same mood, this positive energy, this summer vibe, this style. And I like the fact that disco was made for the dance floors and to make people dance. And it was for me, because I was a bit introvert and I was just dancing at home at the time, was the best music to listen to and start exploring this genre.
Was there a time where you started going to clubs and go on a dance floor, or
No,
were you always
definitely not.
the
Definitely
man
not, because I always looked younger than I was, so there was no option for me under 18 to go to a club like most of my friends with faked IDs and stuff like this. But with 17, I looked like 14, I don't know, and there was no way to go to the club. So and like I said, I was pretty introvert, and I didn't felt comfortable going to the club. And another fact was that most of my friends were into techno, so I had actually no one listen to the same kind of music, because my access to this music was the friend of my father, and he was at the same age like my father. He was 35 or 40 years older than me. So, but all of my friends, they listen into they were more into jungle, drum and bass, and techno. That was actually the first time that I feel a bit exotic in my hometown, surrounded from my friends, because Dresden's also pretty influenced by Berlin and just full of techno and minimal at that time. And that was a problem, and there were no clubs who played disco and house. It was just the discotheques with commercial or then underground techno clubs. So my first experiences in a clubby thing was just techno parties.
Okay. And for you, you mentioned earlier on kind of looking for or finding that your own musical identity. So were you ever tempted to make techno just to please your friends, or just to kind of go down that route?
I was listening a lot to techno. So I was collecting also vinyls from Bash Records, from Carl Cox, or from Drum Code, so Adam Beyer. I really liked it in the beginning. But I never produced techno because it was too, I don't know, I was never obsessed from this. I was just, I don't know, my friends went to record stores and listened to techno, and I went to the record stores and then started collecting stuff because maybe I want to impress my friends. Or then I got a bit obsessed from Sven Väth at that time, and I was traveling around Germany just to see him playing 8 to 10 times a year. I saw him playing because he was, or maybe he still is, for me, one of the best DJs, just in terms of music selection, telling a story with with his DJ set. I was never into the sound, but I was obsessed with the DJ skills, and I was just I was just staying next to him, just seeing him doing the handcraft, or learning the handcraft of a DJ. So that was really, really important for me, those 1 or 2 years following him, and just to see what kind of music selection, what song he plays after each other, just to build up and then to go down. And so that was really a good time when I learned how to DJ, even just in a theory, just in the theory. Yeah, not I had no gigs at that time, so I couldn't train in my practice skills, but was in the theory I was on a high level, I think, already.
But that's very interesting then, because and after you were born in 1980, so you in 1996 you were 16 when you kind of decided, well, I want to become a producer, DJ. So and your first release was, I might be mistaken, but I think 2011 or 12 under this name.
With Purple Disco Machine. Yes, I had another project before, was called Stereo Funk. So I started Stereo Funk in 1998, and I started running a business in 2004, and I released my first record, my first vinyl, I think in 2001 or 2002. Okay. So there was before Purple Disco Machine.
Well, because I want to kind of get to the development you had to go through to get to the Purple Disco Machine, which is over 10 years. It's about 13, 14 years or so. So, and you mentioned kind of learning the craft and learning how to DJ without even playing shows. So what kind of steps did you have to take to get where you are now, in a way?
I actually started with the same kind of music. So I started producing music when French house, filter house was big, was like in the beginning of the noughties, so 2001, 2002, when the big French house hits. So I started making the same kind of music. I just picked my favorite disco songs, chopped it, edited, and sampled it, and this were my first songs, just filter house songs, like Stardust or Daft Punk did, or Boris Lugosz did at the time, but on the really low level, of course. And then I played as a DJ house music all the time. I played a mix of house, disco. I produced a mix of house, disco, sometimes maybe also a bit tech house, but was mostly house and disco. And but it took me a few years, and then the problem, or the reason why I stopped the old project and why I started Purple Disco Machine, was that in the end of 2000, so end of the noughties, in 2009 or 2010, house music was dead. So everything went into EDM, and everyone was playing EDM or minimal, or it was just minimal techno or EDM. And all my friends who just played house music, they went into techno or minimal, into EDM. So, and I was playing more and more on EDM festivals, and my agency and said, if you want to play more shows, you need to play EDM. I said, there's no point for me to do it. And so then I decided to stop the project, because I wasn't happy anymore. So it's not the music why I started this whole thing. I wasn't happy anymore. So it felt like a proper job, and it was definitely not the right path. And I stopped the old project Stereo Funk, and I ran Purple Disco Machine without any pressure, with no expectations, with no label, with no agency, no booking agency. I even didn't care if someone else is playing the music, if someone is books me, just because of the releases. And I could finally make again the music I really loved, go back to my roots, and started from the scratch with a new project. And this, in the beginning, it was a tough decision. It took me a few years to do this hard cut, but after 1 or 2 years, Purple Disco Machine became successful so quickly that I knew there was definitely the right decision.
This is maybe a difficult question to answer about your own music, but why do you think that, especially in the current day, that the type of music you make is so popular? Why do you think people latched onto you, found it interesting what you were doing?
I think it's because the music is so positive, and like I said, I mentioned, especially in the last, for example, in the last 1.5 years. During the pandemic, I mean, we go through a really tough time since years, and people have tough weeks, have so many problems. They just need to listen to music which is just positive, with this without any political issues. It's just music you can dance to, music which makes you smile, which makes you happy. And this is maybe also the reason why Purple Disco Machine, or why my music became even more successful over the last 1.5 years in this difficult time. So this is the only reason, or what means reason. So I think this could be the reason why Purple Disco Machine is so successful. So I mean, I actually don't think a lot about my music. I just follow my heart, just do what I love to do, and don't think too much what kind of effect my music is having around the world, or so it's just trying to do what I like or what I love.
Yeah, well, one of the things, obviously, kind of as you mentioned, it's a very difficult year and a half for a lot of people, but you scored a huge hit in Hypnotized kind of in this time. So can you take me through that song? What was the original spark of that song?
I always wanted to do a song like Hypnotized, because it's in the beginning, it's not a 100% typical Purple Disco Machine songs, but usually, because I'm coming from a club and DJ background, so when I produce songs, I think as a DJ. So I think, okay, what kind of song I can play in my DJ set, in the beginning, in the middle, or at the end. So this is my approach, working on a song. But when I decided to make another album after 2017 with Soulmatic, I think it was end of 2018 when I started working on Exotica, and Hypnotized was actually the first song I started with. So after I decided doing another album, I said, okay, let's do a more down-tempo song, a song which is not 100% made for the dance floors, but it's also typical Purple Disco Machine. And I just got myself a new synth, which was called Sultan Arranger, which was a vintage synth from Sultan is an Italian company. So, and I wanted to do this kind of Italo disco sound, and I was Googling what kind of synths they used, and I went a bit nerdy, trying to find the synths that they used to create this sound. And then I got myself on eBay this Sultan Arranger, which was exactly the same synths they use in most of the Italo disco songs. And I started working with it, and after 4 hours I had a pretty rough idea together of Hypnotized. So it was like, I would say 60-70% of Hypnotized was made in 3 or 4 hours just with this synth. So everything was analog. And then I uploaded the ID, was in my old studio. They uploaded the ID on my socials, and I got so much positive feedback. And because I was a bit nervous, because it was a different style. It wasn't 100% Purple Disco Machine. I wasn't sure if just people like it or not. So I was uploading it, what I actually never do. So just to ask the people if they like the idea or not, and I should keep working on the idea or not. And they had just positive feedback, and everyone liked it. And so I said, okay, I have to finish it. Then I finished the demo, And yeah, then we thought about the singer, and we had a name, a list of names, and Sophie was on it. I thought Sophie, with her voice, could be the right fit for the song, and we pitched the song to Sophie, and she came up with the top line of Hypnotized. And it was just 2 weeks later, was her first draft, and we say, okay, that's it. Please don't go to a professional studio. Please don't re-record everything professionally. We go with this take, because it sounded a bit edgy, not too polished, not too perfect, and this is exactly what I wanted on this song.
It is interesting that you mentioned that, because well, this is just my opinion, but I think a lot of modern electronic music is too polished. And so for you, is it important to have, you mentioned those analog synths and analog equipment, having a more raw vocal take. Is that important to keep it very, very natural, or very, very earthy? I don't know if that's the right word. Or
yeah, I get it. It's definitely. And this is also a point for me, maybe the most important point why I'm still listening a lot to music from the 70s and the 80s, because when you listen to those songs and you close your eyes, you feel you're in a studio surrounded from the musicians, because the music can breathe all the single instrument. They are not too compressed. It doesn't feel like it hits right in your face. So the problem with nowadays, the music is too compressed, is too polished, is too clean, is too perfect, that you don't have the feeling it was made by a musician or made by real people. So it can even say, okay, a computer just made it. And I just trying to catch to fetch the analog feeling, the organic spirit of the 70s and 80s. And that's what I'm trying to do in my songs. And I mean, at least for me, when I listen to my songs, I feel, there's enough room, enough space in the song for every element to shine. The guitars, the drums, the synths. So yeah, my goal is, my rule is, keep it simple, less is more. That's when I produce music. It's just focus on the most important thing, and don't put too much in the song, and then trying to combine everything, and it ends up as a I don't know. I don't like this kind of over compressed music.
Yeah, and what I find interesting then as well is that you mentioned following, I forgot his name, the DJ around, and looking at the way he kind of made his DJ sets, and the notion of storytelling within a DJ set. Yeah. And now on Exotica, there's also a lot of dynamics. One of my favorite songs is Opposite of Crazy, which is a completely different sound from the rest. So is that important to have that storytelling within the album? And can you talk a little bit about what the approach was with Exotica in terms of what story you wanted to tell?
Yeah, definitely. So the reason why I decided to do another album was to be more eclectic on the album, to go more left and right, and not just focus on the dance floor like I do with my singers, with my with the singers I usually am release. So and of course, it's the last 3-4 years from Soul Magic now to Exotica is kind of an evolution of my sound, and it's also an evolution for me. I experienced way more genres. I listened to so much music over the last years, and to all kind of music, and I trying to combine all these genres in my songs. And if you decide to do an album with 13-14 songs, of course I wanted to do an down tempo song. Of course I wanted to do a song like Opposite of Crazy, because it's a song I could actually never play in my DJ set, but it's also a song I love to produce, because it shows another side of Purple Disco Machine. It keeps the whole production process exciting for me to do something else, and not just using the same template again and again. So but it's it's really cool that you mentioned or that Opposite of Crazy is one of your favorite songs, because I was in the beginning after I finished the album, and I was pretty excited, but also a bit nervous about Opposite of Crazy because it's so different from everything else. I thought, yeah, maybe the typical PDM fan or people won't like it because it's not Purple Disco Machine. Say, yeah, he's doing pop now. I don't know, but I always loved this song from the beginning on. I loved the Bloom Twins, working with them. They have a kind of interesting voice. They're not the best singers, but the voice is really interesting and really special and unique. And I wanted to work with them. And then, Hypnotized was Opposite of Crazy was born. So, but also on Exotica, of course, putting together the track list of 14 songs took a while, because I wanted to tell a story. I wanted to start. For me, it was always important to start with an intro, just to not start with what most of the people do. They start with the most successful song. But for me, I wanted to start with an intro just to bring the people in the right mood for Exotica, and then also the last song was quite important for me. And when I worked on I Wanna Feel Like a Lover, I knew already, okay, this is going to be the last song. This is the song which ends the story of Exotica, and so this all together was really important to tell the story and go up and down. You have a few songs which are more clappy. Then with I Remember, you have a song which goes more down, which a song to lay back and just listen to. Loneliness is also a song which is quite relaxed, and then you go up again with Hypnotized, and then you end with Exotica and Playbox, and then Wanna Feel Like a Lover. So it took me a while to find the right track list.
It's interesting that you mentioned this. So for you, it's the live show or the DJ set. Is that something completely different from making an album in that sense?
Music wise, or I mean, it's collecting songs or putting songs together for a DJ set and putting songs together for an album is actually the same process for me, because I want to tell a story on my DJ sets as well. I don't want to play 90 minutes just drop break. And I also want to tell a story and want to go up and down. Like, I mean, the life is like this. They're just up and downs, and you can't enjoy the ups if you don't have the downs. So that's why it doesn't make any sense for me to play in my DJ sets 90 minutes just on 100% level, because people can't enjoy the peaks in a set if you don't have the lows and don't have songs they're a bit more stripped back and give you time to breathe. So it's actually the same approach in my DJ sets and on the album.
And finally, then, because what you mentioned about storytelling is often it's kind of the atmosphere, the mood. You're trying to set a certain mood to create a certain. So when you're creating, how much of that mood is already in you when you're kind of in the creation part of it?
I would say it's 30-40%, and the rest is I go with the flow. So especially during my DJ set, I know, of course, the bones of my DJ sets are there already, because in my DJ sets I play, like, I would say 80 to 90% my own songs, and so the bones are there. So the beginning, the middle part, and the end. But the rest, I just go with the flow. I'm trying to read the crowd. That's what I actually learned from Sven Väth. Just reading the crowd and just taking all the energy, and it's actually an exchange of energy. So you give it with the music, and then you get the energy back from the people, and it's always an exchange of energy. And if you don't get the energy back, I think I wouldn't be a good DJ if that's what I realized over the last 1.5 years doing live streams. So if you don't get anything back, it's really difficult to select the songs in a good way.
Well, last thought then. Have you already been able to play? I don't know what the rules are in Germany at the moment.
Yeah. I'm not in Germany, but I'm on tour since a couple of weeks and playing every weekend in Europe, and now going to the States and South America again.
Okay, so is that something, like you mentioned, the kind of the getting back the energy from the crowd? Have you been able to play some of the new songs, and what has the reaction been like?
Fortunately, I was able to play the songs, and the reaction was good. So it was really difficult also the last 1.5 years, because what I mentioned, or like I mentioned, I produced the songs just as a DJ, and if you finish songs in your studio during lockdown and you're not able to road test your song, it's a bit weird. Usually I'm road testing my songs for a couple of weeks to see, okay, if it's working or not, if I have to change the arrangement, if something not right. But without road testing songs, I had to just trust myself and trust my feelings. But all the songs are working well and on the dance floor, and so this makes me happy, of course.
Very good to hear. Tino, may I thank you for your time?
Yeah, thanks for having me.